huge win this past Sunday up against the Tennessee Titans. So I have one simple question for everybody before we get this video started. Who believes? Who thinks this team can make the playoffs? Who's a real one? Who is believing in this Texans team led by first-year head coach DeMeco Ryans, if you're with me? If you think this team is going to the promised land, if you think this team is making the big dance, going to the playoffs this year, go down and like the video. It's a little thumbs up icon. Go smash that if you believe in this team. Welcome into Texans Today. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and coming up on today's show, I'm going to be breaking down the latest Texans playoff odds. Plus, the Texans, they added somebody yesterday, a new defensive lineman on the squad. I'll break it all down right now. And the Texans, they claimed Teair Tart from the Tennessee Titans off of waivers on Monday. He was a UDFA in 2020 and has played all 4 of his seasons with the Tennessee Titans. Last year, he started 16 games for Tennessee. This year, not too bad of numbers. I mean, it's hard to look at the stats. It's really hard to box score hunt whenever you're looking at defensive tackles because most of the time they don't rack up the tackle sack numbers as much as, edge rushers or other players. But this year, 21 tackles, 1 sack, 8 tackles for loss for Tart. And, I mean, he's a decent guy to plug and play if you need a defensive tackle, in my opinion. You look at his stats over the past 4 seasons. Last year in 16 starts for Tennessee, he had 34 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks, 6 pass breakups. This season, 8 tackles for loss. I mean, wow. In 2021, 16 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. I mean, a decent guy up the middle, if you ask me. Teair Tart, he can be a guy who not going to start for you. I mean, you have Sheldon, Rankins, you have Maliek both played out of their minds this past Sunday up against the Tennessee Titans. So he's not going to start for the Houston Texans whatsoever. But I like the depth move. I like the depth piece. We're getting closer to the postseason. The Texans, like I said, they're trying to make that push. They're trying to make that last-ditch effort to make the postseason and make their mark on the 2023-2024 NFL season. So I personally like the move. But I want to hear from you because this is Chat Sports. This isn't Jeremy Sports. I always want to listen to my audience and see what you have to say. So go down right now and grade the move of claiming Teair Tart. A, B, C, D, or F. Get your red pins out. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get hit with the YouTube ad break, perfect timing. Just go down, scroll down, and give me your answer to this question. I'm going with the solid B for this one. I mean, it's not a absolute home run, but I mean, it's a clutch single when you have 1 out and you're down by, a run or 2 in the 7th inning. It gets the ball rolling for your team. I mean, as we look at the defensive line depth chart, like I said, Sheldon, Rankins, Maliek, they're not going anywhere. They're your starters for the rest of the season and throughout the playoffs. But you look at that depth. Hassan Ridgeway, really huge injury that he suffered. He's on IR, so take him out of the equation. You have Kurt Hinish. You have Davis, who's played very well the past couple weeks. Hinish, though, he's had an up-and-down year, so I'm thinking maybe this Texans coaching staff, this Texans team, really wasn't sure about the depth there at the defensive tackle spot. So that's why they went ahead and claimed Tart off of waivers. Once again, the 6'2", 304-pound defensive tackle out of Florida International. He's going to make some waves for the Texans going into the postseason. I think he's going to be able to, come in and give Collins a break, come in and give Rankins a break. And he's really going to be fighting with Hinish for playing time moving forward. Now, coming up, I'm going to be looking at the AFC playoff race and the latest Texans playoff odds, but I wouldn't be able to do today's show if it wasn't for our sponsor, Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. I'm telling you, folks, Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. Testing my skills on Prize Picks this football season is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. And talked with my buddy Trace over on Saints Now. These are his picks for Thursday Night Football. So you want to maybe earn some money, fade his picks, either use his picks. This is what he's rolling with. He went with Taysom Hill more than 0.5 rushing or receiving touchdowns. And you see that little thing right there? It's a demon pick. They have demon and goblin. So demons, they're a little bit harder to get, but they give you a bigger payout. So he went with the demon pick with Taysom Hill more than 0.5 rushing or receiving touchdowns. He also went with more than 53.5 rush yards for Alvin Kamara. I usually like to go the receiving yards for Alvin Kamara, producer Coop. He's a really big receiving threat out of the backfield. And then he also went with more than 0.5 interceptions for Matthew Stafford. Like I said, use his picks, fade his picks, just do it over at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, once again, it's daily fantasy sports made easy. Now, looking at the Texans playoff odds, if the Texans win out, they're in. It's as simple as that. If they win all 3 games, I believe they're going to be able to go in. And if they lose out, they have less than a 1% chance of getting in. So I'm saying they're probably going to be out. And I'm going to be breaking down the other scenarios here in just a moment. But here's our AFC playoff picture after Week 15. The Ravens securing that number 1 spot. They haven't clinched it yet, but they are right there in the lead at 11-3. Right behind them, the Dolphins, the Chiefs, and then the Jags at 8-6. And you notice, Jags are 8-6. Colts are 8-6. Texans are 8-6. Yes, there is still a way the Texans can win this division, all tied up. And apparently, Trevor Lawrence is questionable to play this weekend. So, as we're looking at all the playoff teams, obviously you still have the Browns, the Bengals there at the wild card spot. Buffalo tied with Houston at 8-6 in the hunt. My question to you is, out of all those playoff teams that we just looked at, what playoff team would you want to face in the first round? As I'm looking at it, as I'm seeing, I mean, if I'm the Texans, I really would want to roll the dice with either Jacksonville, in my opinion, either play Jacksonville, or if they can somehow win the division, possibly play the Browns. They don't have a quarterback. They play them this weekend. If you could play the Browns or maybe the Bengals with Jake Browning, you already beat the Bengals once again. Those would be my teams. But I want to hear from you. What teams would you want to face in the first round of the playoffs? Now, once again, after the win over the Titans, the Texans currently have a 55% chance of making the playoffs. So, maybe a little bit better than a coin flip. But I want to go through these next 3 games and the different scenarios. If they don't win out or if they don't lose out, these are all the scenarios that the Texans could face. So, first of all, I'm going if the Texans win 2 and they lose 1. If they win over the Browns and they win over the Titans but lose to the Colts, they have a 73% chance to make the playoffs in that instance. All right? And then here's the next one. If they beat the Colts and they also beat the Tennessee Titans, but they lose to the Browns this Sunday, 98% chance. So 2 wins over Tennessee and Indianapolis, 98% chance. Really, really good right there. And then the last one for the 2-win category, if you beat the Browns and you beat the Colts, and then you somehow lose to the Titans, 99% chance. So if you get 2 wins out of your next 3, a really good shot at making the playoffs if you're Houston. So you need to win at least 2 of the next 3. Because these next odds, they're not going to be as pretty. These are the 1-win odds. If you beat the Colts and you lose to the Browns and the Titans, you have an 11% chance of making the playoffs. Not very good. If you win over the Browns this weekend, but then you lose your next 2 against the Tennessee Titans and the Colts, a 10% chance to make the playoffs. And the last one, if you beat the Titans and you lose to the Browns, you lose to the Colts, only a 4% chance to make the playoffs. Really, I've been saying it's going to be TBD, and I think it might be a primetime matchup if it ends up being the way I think it's going to play out. The very last game, Week 18, Colts-Texans, that could be winner gets into the playoffs. So be on the lookout for that. The Texans, the magic number's 2. You got to win 2 out of your next 3 to get in. And I believe they can do so. I liked the video at the very beginning. I hope you did too, because I hope you believe in this Texans team. If you want more Texans news and rumors, go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Jeremy Chuggs for the latest, greatest news around the Houston Texans, NFL, the dankest memes on the internet. And as always, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We are the fastest growing Texans channel on YouTube. So if you want to join the community, you want to be a part of a great Texans fan base here on Texans Today, go down and hit the sub button. Or if you already subbed, go ahead and send it to a friend. YouTube.com/TexansTV. Like I said, we're the fastest growing Texans channel on YouTube. Let's keep it going.